this video, we are going to learn binding event handlers. This video will take much sense to you once you are comfortable with basics of this key word in JavaScript. What we wanted to achieve in this session, on click a button, we simply change a message which is a part of component state. Now let us create our file in a component folder and call it event binding. We call it event binding.js. This will be a class component, so I'll use a snippet RCE. I'll take off this export. I'll make sure that I import in app.js my component. So here I'll have event binding, close the tag, make sure it is imported on the top. Now, in here, I'll create my class constructor that will develop for me. I'll create my class constructor and also state object. I will use a snippet rconst to generate for me all of them. So inside my state here, I'll have message. I will initialize this. Hello, my students. Okay. So in a div here, I'll have h1 tag. Then I'll have to display my state here in a browser. So I'll have this dot state dot message. Okay. And here I'll add a button element that I'll write in click me. Okay. You can name anything. Inside here, we are going to have our on click event. So before getting further, we need to understand how many ways of binding we can use. We have 4 ways. Binding in a render, we have arrow function in a render, we have binding in a class constructor, and the fourth, we have class property as an arrow function. We are going to see one after another. So we are going to start with the first one, binding in a render. So here, I'll have this bracket, curly braces, then I'll write this dot, I will say this is change message. Okay, because we need to change the message, so I'll write change message. You can write anything. Message. Okay. Now I'll have my set state method here. So I'm going to say I'll take change message. Then inside here I'm going to have this dot set state. Okay. Then I'll have my message here that I need to change. There I have hello student. Here I'll have goodbye my students. Okay. Now let's go to a browser and check what will happen. Okay. In here we have hello my students. Oh, so when we click here, we have an error that really cannot read property set state of undefined. Now, what is this? We say this key word is undefined in an event handler. That's the reason event binding is necessary in React class component. Now, how this is undefined, okay? Let's get back to our VS Code and do one thing so that you can understand this statement I've spoke with. And let us console here. So I'll have CLG. Then we need to console what? This. Okay. And comment this one here first. Okay. So let's clean here and let's click this one. You see, undefined. So we say this keyword is undefined in an event handler. That's the reason event binding is necessary in a React class component. So in order to have a solution set for this problem that has been happened, what we need to do is to bind in our render. So let's get back to our VS Code. So here, in our render here, we are going to say dot bind, then what? This. Okay. So let us get back. Okay. Sorry. Let us get back all of this thing here and comment again. Let's go to our browser. Okay. Bam. Now it's working. So we are done with the problem of undefined. So that's the first method of binding. Now let us get to the second method, which is arrow function in render. Let's get to VS Code. So I'll copy this one here and I'll paste here, and I will comment this one here. Okay, now I'll take this one off here. Remember, this we did when we were learning states. So here we are going to have our arrow function this way. So here we're going to write this dot change message, then we put our callback function. Let's go to our browser and see. Okay, refresh. Let's click here. Bam, things are working as expected. Now the third method is binding in a class constructor. Let's get to VS Code. So I will take this one here, I'll copy it and I'll paste down here. I'll comment this one and I will uncomment this one here. Okay, I will uncomment it here. So what I'm going to do, I'll take off this binding here. Okay, now in my constructor, so this here, I'll say this dot what change method equals to this dot change method, then dot bind this. Okay, so let's get back to our browser and see what has been happening. Okay, so we're here. Bam, things are working perfectly. So that says binding in a class constructor. We get the same result with the different approaches or ways. So let's see the last one, that is class property as an arrow function. Okay, here we are going to comment this one here. Okay, comment it, and let us create one thing here. Okay, so let us create the method. So we are going to have change equals to our arrow function this way here, and inside it we are going to have our set state method. So this dot set state, then we'll have our message here. Okay, so I say good by my students. Okay, so let us go and see in our browser. Bam, things are working correctly. Now we have seen those four methods. So we say in React documentation, it suggests either you use approaches number 3 or approaches number 4. Okay, we are recommended from React documentation that we might use this approach number 3 or this approach number 4. But this number 4 is in experimenting, and I hope when it will be done, this will be a very good way to go. Okay, so we will stick on approaches 3 and 4 in our lectures, and when we need to pass parameters, we'll go with approach number 2 for its simplicity. That means we draw these approaches here. Thank you so much, my students, for listening this lecture of event binding handler. Don't forget to subscribe. See